Welcome, everybody. I first of all want to introduce again my co-presenter today, Dr. Cameron Vandersmee. Cameron is a very talented teacher who has a bit of a background in school education, and he's talented in the areas of health and phys ed teaching, among other things. Now, I'd also like to tell you that Cam is a really keen music fan, loves listening to music. Not sure what type and not sure whether it's my taste, but I'll now pass over to Cam.
Thanks, Peter. And I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce my colleague and co-presenter, Dr. Peter Sellings. Peter is a very talented and knowledgeable teacher, educator, and researcher. He's a senior lecturer in specifically in maths education, and his passion is family history. So if you ask him at the end, in the Q&A, if you ask him at the end to go take his family back 17 generations, he will be able to do it for you. All right, so let's start. We want to start by getting all of you involved reasonably early on. What we want to do is to get an idea of where you're coming from, what you're interested in, what your passions are. We've kind of already told you our passions, but we want to get an idea of where all of you are coming from. So we're going to ask some questions. We want you to respond to each question with an emoticon, or you can use a GIF, and I'll put one of my favorite ones in now to give you an idea of how you can respond. So just respond with an emotion, or tell us how you're feeling in regards to each question. So let's have a look at the first one, and you can just find the emotion, the emoticons, or the GIFs down the bottom in your in your text box. So, are you interested in secondary teaching? So, give us an idea of in the chat with an emoticon or a GIF, like I did, if you're interested in secondary teaching. Thanks, Harrison. So we've got one person interested in secondary teaching. Secondary, obviously, being high school teaching. Anyone else? There we go. That's a good one. So lots of people interested. Let's look at our second one then. Are you enjoying the Federation University Open Day so far? So you can be as honest as you would like. Are you enjoying the Federation University Open Day so far? Show us with an emoticon in the chat. We've got some people clapping, which is good. That's great. Let's look at our next one. Would you like to know more about secondary teaching, about the secondary teaching degree? So are you here specifically because you want to know more about the degree? Great, we've got some thumbs up coming through. And now let's go a little bit more specific. So while we've still got some people coming through for the secondary, let's go a little bit more specific and ask for some responses from people if they're interested in the health and physical education teaching stream. Anyone who's interested in the health and physical education teaching stream, teaching program. That's good. We've got a couple of people. Few people. All right, so let's start by looking at. So that's good. We've got everyone involved pretty early on. We've got some obviously people for the secondary degree and some people specifically for the health and physical education. So the first question that we want to look at is why study at education at Federation University, and let's look at some of the reasons why you might choose. So our program, both the secondary teaching and the HPE, offers a strong theoretical and practical perspective on secondary teaching. So lots of time in the classroom looking at theory, but also lots of practical application. We provide the opportunity to learn in innovative ways. We give you the opportunity to work with lecturers who have extensive research and practical teaching expertise. We give you the opportunity, especially within HPE, to work with students across a range of courses. So for the HPE, including outdoor ed and our sport, physical and outdoor education degrees. We provide the opportunity for you to build connections with regional and local schools and communities. And we help you to gain, obviously, through our program, we help you to gain an education to become a graduate teacher, graduate ready teacher. So you'll see later on that that's one of our key strengths, that we have you by the end of your 4 degrees, graduate ready and ready to go straight into a school.
Not long term, but it's actually.
So let's have a look at our facilities. Hopefully we've got some of you who are looking at Berwick, some of you who are looking at Churchill, and some of you who are looking at Mount Helen. Our Berwick campus, we have a range of world-class educational facilities, and we'll also be working closely with a number of local community sporting complexes. That's specifically for the HPE. So we'll get access to a lot of really great community sport facilities. In Churchill, we have, obviously, we also have give you access to world-class educational facilities and recently upgraded sporting and exercise science facilities. And then at Mount Helen, we've just opened our new multi-million-dollar sporting complex, and we also have world-class educational facilities. So no matter which campus you choose to study at, you've got access to a great range of facilities.
All right, so now I'm going to speak to you a little bit about potential career opportunities if you undertake the Bachelor of Secondary Education. So the first thing to note is this is a degree that enables you to be registered with the Victorian Institute of Teaching, otherwise known as VIT. Now, this is a new degree, but we have had students in secondary teaching degrees for a number of years. And what our education graduates from secondary teaching degrees work as, they work as secondary teachers in either their major or minor discipline area. And we'll talk a little bit more later on in this presentation about the major and minor discipline areas. They work as health and phys ed secondary teachers. And some of our health and phys ed graduates also work as health and phys ed primary teachers. So just because you're doing a secondary teaching degree, sometimes there's opportunities to look more widely than just secondary teaching. Now, our Federation University students and in secondary teaching degrees have gained employment in a wide range of primary and secondary schools across Australia and interstate. Now, we're fortunate enough today to have one of our graduates. He graduated, this would be his 2nd year of teaching, I believe. And I taught Isaac in his 4th year, so I know him reasonably well. And welcome, Isaac. And what we'd like you to tell us is your experiences at Fed Uni and then what you've gone on to do, please.
Of course, Peter. Hello, everyone. I hope we're all doing really well as one can, I guess, on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. As Peter has said, it is my 2nd year out in the teaching field. I'm actually teaching over in Werribee at the moment at a school called Wyndham Central College. Federation University, I really cannot commend it enough. One of the reasons why is, as I was getting into year 12, there was a couple of concerns that I had with my studies and stuff during year 12. Where I had a couple of issues with my exams, thought that I knew that I wanted to get into teaching, but really struggled with my studies in year 12. It was thanks to places like Federation University that when we got into our exams, when I had support for them during my exams, that I was able to get those scores and then apply for it and see how we went anyway. And then we got to that day of January the 18th where those offers came out and I ended up getting my first preference, much to a couple of people's surprises when I was trying to do cartwheels around the park on that day. So getting into uni, one of the biggest things about Federation University, and I've spoken to a couple of other teachers, is the one-on-one support that you get with your lecturers. I have never been told by other colleagues or work colleagues or other students that they have had as much support as what our lecturers are at Federation University. They have that one-on-one support and it feels when you get to things such as those tutor sessions that you will differ for those of you who are in year 11 and year 12, they're very similar to like a regular classroom. You do get that one-on-one support. And I think that that's really important when you're getting into a teaching setting, because it gives you that guidance. You can actually learn those different strategies. So going through all of that, there is a lot of work that's involved with the secondary education degree. You've got quite a few qualifications that you need to get prior to getting out. One of the biggest challenges that I had was going out and trying to gain that employment. But once again, Federation University really helped in terms of getting you those applications and getting you that right structure. So in my final year, as I was going to get my VIT, I applied for 65 teaching positions, and those were all across Victoria. So they were around places like Cranbourne, all the way out to Kahuna, and all the way out to Kahuna. And I believe there was one even in Bairnsdale that I got an interview for. So traveling all around the state was really interesting. And then I was lucky enough to get a position at Wyndham Central College. And so my allotment at the moment is I'm teaching English. I'm currently working in projects at the school at the moment. So we have at our school, it's called an enrichment program. And so what that entails is you work with the top band of students at the school in developing a project that they will work on. So I'm working with a couple of students at the moment that are developing a production for their school. Which has then led me into what you'll have is a teaching philosophy. And my teaching philosophy has to do with the well-being and the engagement levels of students. So how can we improve the students' well-being, which is very important at Wyndham Central College. And it's one of our school visions and school values, is ensuring that the respect, the cooperation and excellence is going through. So that leads us into this year, where I'm currently teaching Year 7 to Year 11 subjects. I'm currently teaching, there's a Year 10, I don't know if we've got any Year 10 students here at the moment, that they do a VCE subject in Year 10. So I teach that alongside Year 7 to Year 9 English, as well as a Year 7 and Year 8 literacy intervention program. So we assist students who have differing levels of literacy academia. And so, that leads us into today.
All right. Thank you very much, Isaac. That's given us some really great insight into what our graduates do and where our graduates end up. And our graduates actually end up in a variety of settings right across Victoria and interstate. All right, so next we go on to admission pathways. There are a number of reasons why you consider it an admission pathway. Usually it's because you haven't met the prerequisite VCE requirements, or you might be returning to study. You might not have completed secondary school education, and there are still pathways for mature age students who haven't completed secondary school education, or you don't meet the English or academic requirements if you're an international student. Now, when we talk pathways, there's two groups of pathways. One is a pre-degree pathway, which are these options. So there's the FAST program, which is the Foundation Access Study program, which is a 6-month program to prepare you to go into a degree program. You could study at TAFE, looking at a certificate 3 or higher in a relevant subject area. And depending on the subjects undertaken, you might receive credit, though that is pretty tricky into the secondary education degree. But in some degrees you can receive credit. TAFE can be really good because it's a hands-on experience and gets you back into that learning again. There's also Federation College. If you haven't quite finished your secondary education and you're still reasonably young, you can look at going back to Federation College and doing a VCAL, a pathway to study or pathway to employment. And there's the EAP, English for Academic Purposes, particularly if you're an international student and don't meet the English requirements. The pathway will assist you to gain entry into higher degrees. Now, at that point, then we come to the degree options for pathways, and these are particularly for students who don't get that 78R that's required or don't meet the English requirements, but they're fairly close. And I'll pass over to Cam to go through the admission pathway for the Bachelor, or pathways, because there are two, for the Bachelor of Secondary Education.
Thanks, Peter. So as Peter said, if you finish your Year 12 studies, you don't get the ATAR that you want, or if you don't have the right English language score to get in, one option that you can pursue to get, and this one specifically to get into our Bachelor of Secondary Education, the Health and PE teaching stream, is another program that we offer is the Bachelor of Sport, Physical and Outdoor Education. It's a 3-year program and it's offered as a standalone degree, and it also works as a pathway, as we mentioned. So students who don't meet the Bachelor of Secondary HPE entry requirements can enroll into this program as an alternative. It shares many of the courses with our Bachelor of Health and Physical Education, and students can either transfer over to the TN5 HPE after successfully completing 8 courses and meeting other university requirements. So that's one option. Enroll into that program, successfully complete 8 courses and a number of other requirements, and then you're able to transfer over. Or alternatively, you can finish that SO5 degree and use this as an admission to a Masters of Teaching. And the other option, so that was the pathway for the Bachelor of Secondary Education in Health and Physical Education. The admission pathway just into the regular Bachelor of Secondary Education is our TC5 program. Similar to the other program, it's a 3-year program that's offered as a standalone as well as a pathway. And any student who doesn't meet the TN5 entry requirements can enroll into this program. It also shares many similar courses with the TN5 program, and you can either transfer over to the Bachelor of Secondary Education after completing 8 TC5 courses and meeting other university requirements, or similar to what we said in the last slide, you can finish that TC5, that 3-year degree, and use the degree as an admission into Master of Teaching. All right, let's look at now that we have a kind of general understanding, let's look at some program information, so how our program actually works. So it's whether you're doing the Bachelor of Secondary or whether you're doing the Bachelor of Secondary in Health and Physical Education, it's a 4-year degree. The locations are Berwick, Gippsland and Mount Helen, although if you choose to do the visual art major, that's currently not available at Berwick. In order to get in, it's an ATAR of 70, an English study score of 25, and you must have completed Year 11 General Maths or higher. In Year 1, you'll do 4 courses plus 1 placement course. In Year 2, similarly, you'll do 4 courses per semester and 1 placement course. Year 3, 4 courses per semester plus 1 placement course. In your final year, you'll do the 4 courses per semester, but you'll also complete 2 placement courses. It's important to know that the placements in the school starts in the first year, so you'll do 5 days, in your first year, and this will culminate in a final 30-day placement, which you'll complete in the 4th year.
All right, thanks, Cam. I'm now going to go through some of the pathways that are available within the Bachelor of Secondary Education. And obviously one of those, if you look at number 3, is the Health and Phys Ed Education pathway. I want to start at number 1 though, which is what's called a major minor pathway. So what that means is you have substantial discipline knowledge in one of your disciplines, which is your major, which is 8 courses that you would study. And then you'd have a second discipline area known as a minor, which should have less discipline knowledge in, and you would do only 4 courses in the discipline minor. Now, as part of this degree, you would have 2 elective courses. Now, we do call them prescribed electives because it's not you can pick anything within the university. There are some guidelines that help you to pick those 2 elective courses. Or you could choose the second option, which is the major pathway. which is again 12 discipline courses, but this time it's 6 in each discipline area. So you would have the same level of expertise in each of your discipline areas. And again, you have 2 elective courses. And finally, the third option is the Health and Phys Ed pathway, which is actually a fully prescribed degree. So there are no electives in it, but you do 12 discipline areas in Health and Phys Ed, and you do 4 in a minor discipline area. So essentially, with the Health and Phys Ed pathway, you end up with 3 areas that you can teach in: the health, the phys ed, and the minor discipline area. So it certainly has some attractive qualities to it, as do the other 2. Now, what I'm going to go through now is what majors and minors are available. Now, in most cases, except for the major minor stream, all majors and minors are available at all campuses. The exception is in the majors, we cannot offer visual arts at Berwick. All right, there just isn't the facilities to do visual arts at Berwick. So you can see our majors in this stream of the degree. We've got English, Humanities, Science or Senior Science, and visual arts available at Churchill and Mount Helen only. In the minors, we've got English, History, Information Technology, Mathematics, Media Studies, Psychology and Science. However, you'll see a note down the bottom that a student cannot take English or Science as both their major and their minor, because as a teacher, you're required to have 2 teaching areas. So if you took English as both your major and minor, you'd only have 1 teaching area, and then you couldn't be registered as a teacher. And we've also said that senior science can't be taken with science. Now, there's reasons for that again. In the major pathway, you have the choice of English, History, Information Technology, Mathematics, Outdoor Ed, Phys Ed, Psychology and Science. You can pick any 2 of those, with the exception you cannot pick Outdoor Ed and Phys Ed. If you wish to do Outdoor Ed and Phys Ed, then you need to look at the next degree, which is the HPE one, which allows you to do Outdoor Ed and Phys Ed with the health. So we're saying that if you wanted to do Outdoor Ed and Phys Ed, well, you need to have the health as well, and have health, Phys Ed and Outdoor Ed as 3. All right, so that one's fairly straightforward. If we go to the third one, which is the Bachelor of Secondary Education, Health and Phys Ed teaching, you'll all be studying Health and Phys Ed physical education as a major, as well as completing a minor in either English, History, Information Technology, Mathematics, Media Studies, Outdoor Ed, Psychology and Science. So again, you can see that there's a pretty good variety of majors and minors available.